Don't be smug. Don't be smug. Don't be smug. Whatever you do, don't be smug about it. This is today's Arsenal transfer show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time, telling you why you're wrong and you need to be patient and calm down and not panic and don't worry about things, because in the end, it'll all work out. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat box. Really appreciate your time. Please do drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Good morning to those joining us today. As you can tell, I'm quite energized. Matt G, good morning to you. Grantley Booze, we've got Paul, we've got Southport Gooner, Andy, we've got Pat. I want to see lots of these in the chat box, by the way. Lots of these emojis, please. Please get them going. Please flood the chat box. You know what to do. You know why you need to do it. It's not a difficult task, but let's flood the chat box, shall we, this morning? Mike, good morning to you, to Paul, to Jamil. We've got Brad and Azar. We've got Graham and Tom and Claire. Good morning to you all. We've got Jose and Roy. We've got James and Stephen, Jitty. We've got Chanor. We've got Nigel and Shari. Good morning to everybody joining us. Do drop a like in the chat box. Do subscribe if you're new. We, of course, are on our way now to 65,000 subscribers. If you haven't been ever so kind to drop a like on the video already, please do. We try and get to 1,000 every single day. And I've got to the point now where I'm speaking so quickly, I've forgotten what I have and haven't said. But I think that's okay. So, yes. But it's good to see you all this morning. Really appreciate you all tuning in and listening, because it is an important day. It's a big day. It's a really good day, because our headline story, Sevilla are interested in the goalkeeper signing of Karl Hein. The Estonian international is linked to the move away from Arsenal this summer. And Sevilla are one of the clubs interested in him, according to El Correo de Andalucía. And of course, he is looking to make a switch away from Arsenal and get some more regular first-team football. He got that, of course, last season. He was able to do that with Real Valladolid, where he pretty much played every single game. And had a decent campaign. But of course, despite signing a new contract with Arsenal last year, he is now expected to depart, with Arsenal signing Kepa Arrizabalaga, of course, as well. So yes, very, very exciting news that Arsenal may be getting some more money this summer, which they can maybe spend on some other players. Meanwhile, other news regarding outgoings. Leandro Trossard is, despite, of course, reporting from Sami Mokbel, very good report the other day, of course, around his contract, that he looks closer to signing a new deal. Despite that story, news in Germany suggests that Bayern Munich are interested in potentially signing the player. Of course, they've been interested in Luis Diaz, but so far there has been no breakthrough whatsoever in talks there, and they may choose instead to pivot away from Diaz and instead move for Trossard. Now, Arsenal are believed to have a £20 million asking price on the Belgian player's head, and whether or not indeed he does go, we will have to wait and see. But the latest on kind of where this is heading towards from Sammy was that a new deal was more likely indeed. Ethan Nwaneri, the news just keeps getting better for Arsenal. Ethan Nwaneri is now believed to be very close to agreeing a brand new contract with the club. Again, this from the excellent Sami Mokbel, who reported this story yesterday. Arsenal are set to make Ethan Nwaneri a formal offer of a new contract. Talks over to accelerate the transfer this week amid a will from all parties to reach an agreement. So not only are Arsenal signing players left and right, but they're also renewing more players. Of course, they've already renewed Miles Lewis-Skelly to a new deal. Gabriel Magalhaes has signed a new deal. They're in talks with Saliba and Saka over new deals. Trossard, of course, as well. And it looks like Nwaneri is also going to be staying too. So, yes, plenty of positive news on that front. Also, our penultimate story of the day, before we get to some irrelevant stuff, is Cristhian Mosquera, of course, whose name really had disappeared for a little while at least. It kind of was put on hold. Arsenal were doing other things. I wonder what those other things were. but they were doing other things, of course, in the market. And this discussion over a deal for Cristhian Mosquera kind of got put on the back foot only because they could. He's very keen on a move to Arsenal. He's already rejected two contract offers, from Valencia. And Arsenal are now looking to conclude a deal for the Spanish youth international this week. They will have to put up more than the 14 million euros they are believed to have already submitted and get closer to that 20 million euro asking price. But there is optimism that this is a deal that will get done in the very near future. And I think that's it. I think so. Thank you so much. We're going to go to part 2 now, and your questions and more right after this. I'm only joking. Can you imagine? If I'd just forgotten this bit, this little tiny teeny weeny piece of news to talk about today? Arsenal have agreed a cut price, £63.4 million deal, including add-ons, to sign Viktor Gyökeres, as a waiting game has paid off and the agent has decided to waive a fee. Arsenal, of course, were in talks over a potential 70 million euro plus 10 million euros in add-ons to get this done, in which case the agent, of course, would have received a 10% cut of a potential deal. However, that has been waived, and as a result, Arsenal are now paying 63.5 million euros with 10 million euros in add-ons. It pays to wait. It pays to be patient, and Berta might just know when it comes to transfer negotiations. Instead of just stumping up the money and throwing that money around, sometimes, just sometimes, it's a little bit beneficial to wait and see and trust the process. Viktor Gyökeres is expected to be Arsenal's new striker this summer, joining the club on a record deal for, of course, a centre-forward, eclipsing that of what Arsenal paid for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. It is a very, very exciting moment, I think, for Arsenal supporters, and finally fulfilling that centre-forward role. It's been a long summer. It shouldn't feel like it's been a long summer because it's not even the halfway point of the transfer window, I should tell you. We're not even halfway through this chaotic circus that is the summer transfer window. And yet, despite not being halfway through this chaotic summer transfer window, Arsenal have signed a backup goalkeeper, a top defensive midfielder, a Jorginho replacement, soon to have their Bukayo Saka cover and competition, now to have their brand new number 9, soon to have their defensive option in Saliba and Gabriel's potential backup in Mosquera signed up, and they might not even be done yet. And it's not even halfway through. So when you see those people saying Arsenal are slow, we drag things on, it takes too long, it's so annoying, Arsenal are so this, so that, boring, 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 abuse, 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 just sit down, take a step back before sitting down. It's hard to do that if you sit down first, but take a step back, sit down, look at the bigger picture, appreciate what's going on, stop losing your heads, stop abusing the club, stop graffitiing walls, you cretins, and start understanding that this is just how some things work. Right, let's go to part 2. Let's get some of your reaction to this and more right after this. All right, this is part 2 of the show. I just want to say that the cretin comment was only directed at those who feel it's appropriate to vandalise. It's just the way it goes. Everyone else, you're fine. If you had doubts, I understand it. I empathise with you. I really do, because it was a long summer in 2024, and it didn't pay off. It didn't pay off, and I get that there is a level of PTSD, and I understand that. So I'm only having a bit of fun, and I hope you're taking it as that, because that is all it is intended to be. But yeah, I think it's a good lesson. I think it's a really good moment to kind of just, actually genuinely take a step back and appreciate and look at the bigger picture of things, because it's always been this. Like, it's always been like this. I've tried telling you time and time and time and time and time again. Please, 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 wait. Be patient. You know, you've got to wait and see what all the business looks like before losing your minds, before jumping into comment sections, before jumping onto social media and tweeting horrible things. You've got to wait and then make a judgment. And then it's for me that's the biggest thing here. It's the amount of people that were just willing to just spout horrible stuff, post horrible things, say such inaccuracies about how Arsenal are conducting their business this summer. We could not have been clearer. We could not have been clearer about what's happening around the club, the way in which Andrea Berta is working this summer, the way in which he is intending to do things this summer. It is always going to cause a lot of different links. It's always going to see different stories emerge every day. There's a pressure on so many media outlets, of course, to push out the stories every single day, which, of course, I think in some ways kind of lengthens. You'd think it would shorten things because we're more updated these days. We've got more access to news than we did 20 years ago. But actually, the opposite is true. Now it's a longer period of time, I think, personally, between like each story. And it makes it feel like it's longer when it's actually not. So I really hope that you take this as a strong lesson to be learned around how to kind of approach how you are absorbing information through a transfer window. Because if you don't, you're just going to end up getting miserable. You're just going to be miserable. Really miserable around what is a really, in my opinion, an exciting time always. And sometimes it lets you down. You can't have everything. And last summer, we were let down as fans. 2024 was an awful summer window. It was bad. And as a result, it had a knock-on effect on our season. And the guy who ran that window is not here anymore. And yet, less than halfway through this window, people were willing to give up on Berta. Judge Berta suggests that he was not good enough, that we should send him back to Atletico Madrid. I'm so glad that it's not even been halfway through this summer window until we've seen how silly those suggestions were. But it shouldn't have been this way. It shouldn't have been us panicking. But I will have a level of empathy for those, of course, that, like me, have been through these windows time and time again. And are still, of course, having some kind of like links back to that previous window. Right, let's go to the chat box. Imagine if we'd done the phone-in show today. I'm not doing it today because I'm working, but imagine if we'd done the phone-in show today instead. That would have been good. But I mean, go give that listen yesterday. It was a really good phone-in show still, even though we weren't exposed to the news that we know now. If anything, it adds more context. I think the majority of people were pretty calm, pretty chill about Arsenal and what they were doing and what the whole business of the summer is. We're not done yet. If Arsenal get Eze in, that's an incredible window they've had. You know, Eze, Madueke, Gyökeres, Zubimendi, Norgard, Mosquera, Kepa. 7 players through the door potentially. I'd love an 8th because I'm greedy. And I know you are as well. I'd love an 8th. And if Arsenal let one of Trossard or Martinelli go, then we'd have to go and get an 8th. And we'd have to go and get another winger. But 7 players in, if neither of the 2 left wingers go, Arsenal are in an incredible position. It's on the Eze now. Like, the Eze deal for me has always been, as you very well know, the one I've been looking forward to the most, if it can happen. And I hope it can happen. Really, really hope it can happen. I agree with Elliot when he was talking. I think it was Elliot. It might have been Phil, actually. I was listening to the Arsenal Vision. Those that convinced themselves that Arsenal could sign Gyökeres, Eze, and Rodrigo, it was always going to be very, very hard to see that reality happening, especially with the price tag that's on Rodrigo's head. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it was always going to be very unlikely that that was a realistic window. The moment, what Arsenal have done, if they get Gyökeres, if they get Mosquera, if they get Eze in, which looks to be a real possibility, it's a solid 9 out of 10 window, and I don't think anyone could really have any debate about that. We need to move some players on, of course, as well. Zinchenko and Reece Nelson and Fabio Vieira and maybe one of those left wingers. But at the end of the day, what Arsenal could be doing with those 7 signings is a hell of an improvement on the squad that we've had. A massive, massive rise in options, a massive rise in potential. You know, you've got Gyökeres and Eze and Zubi as potential starters. Madueke, of course, adds that depth that we have been crying out for. I know the price tag is a lot of money. I know there's question marks about that deal. I've got questions. You've got questions. We've all got questions, but we've got to wait and see what he can do. And then, of course, you've signed some really exciting, younger players, I guess, as well, with Mosquera. And Madueke is one of those younger players. And then you've got the experience of Kepa and Norgard coming in as well. So, yeah. Wes says, how am I feeling after wanting Sesko? Of course, this is kind of all that people, I suppose, have got left to point in my direction. As those of you that have listened to the show for the whole of this window and before, I've always been very split, leaning towards Sesko. 60-40 was where I was at. 60 Sesko, 40 Gyökeres. But that very much changed when RB Leipzig were asking the money they were asking for. 90 million euros plus is just not what Sesko is worth. And the fact that Arsenal have managed to get in total a deal for Gyökeres at £63.4 million is really, really good. I wasn't comfortable with spending upwards of £80 million on either of the two players. And we've talked about that at length for a long, long time. And I think that the fact that this market has the both kind of number, the both strikers that we were linked to this summer, as I said to you, I don't think either of them at the moment necessarily are guaranteed to be massive upgrades on what we already have. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see Gyökeres prove a lot of the doubts that I've had wrong. I really am excited to see what he can do. And I think a lot's what's kind of changed my view around him is how he has been so determined to join Arsenal. So determined to join Arsenal. That has an impact. That has an effect on people's views of a player. He is Arsenal through and through from the sounds of things. There was a rumour going around the other day that he is in fact a childhood Arsenal fan. And that's why he is also very keen on joining the club. And I wonder if that gets addressed in any of the potential media interviews that he does, of course, over the next week or so. But yeah, it's the pancakes and waffles thing. How am I feeling? I'm feeling pretty good, Wes. Thank you so much for asking. Luke says, when you spend nearly 1 billion and virtually every player in the squad has been signed by you, then there is a right to win something after the length of time Arteta would have been here. And of course, we haven't spent 1 billion yet. We're heading towards that direction. Before this window opened, Arsenal had spent around £700 million. But we are heading towards that billion. Of course, people like to say words like nearly 1 billion, because it does, of course, change the context of the way in which they're speaking. But I know that those of you that are not silly and are very clever can see through those types of wording. It's types of wording that you see a lot to try and diminish what Arsenal have done so far. And that's, of course, to get back into a title contention for the first time in 2 decades nearly. Of course, to start reaching those latter stages of the Champions League. Did pick up a trophy very early on, but we haven't picked up enough so far. And the expectation next season will be big. There will be big expectations on Arsenal lifting silverware next season, and quite rightly. But of course, we do see through those people that like to use terminology like nearly 1 billion, because we know that before this summer, actually, it wasn't nearly 1 billion. It was just over £500 million. It was closer to £500 million than it was 1 billion at that point. But you see the wording that people use to try and, of course, change the way in which we view things as well. Dan says, Tom, what percentage in your guts do you put on us signing Eze? I'm about 80%. I'd probably say I'm around where you are, Dan. I think that's probably fair. There's enough room to be a little concerned. We might need to, of course, make some sales like a Zinchenko, a Vieira, a Hein, a Reece Nelson, maybe. But there is a real determination, a real hope that Arsenal can also get that deal done as well. It's always been thought to be separate to what else we want to do, separate to what else they wanted to achieve. But yeah. Brian says, do you see Gyökeres helping Ødegaard to come back into Ødegaard form from previous seasons? Or would someone like an Eze be more helpful? I mean, Ødegaard is a creator. Ødegaard is somebody that finds the centre forward. So you would assume, and Eze is a creator as well, don't get me wrong, but I think he's got more goal-scoring abilities than Ødegaard does. So you'd look more so at kind of Ødegaard to be a player to help get even more from Gyökeres. The problem, the limitations that Gyökeres has is, of course, he's no longer playing for the best team in his country by a long way. You know, and I know there's a couple of clubs, 2-3 clubs in Portugal, but the gap between the top and the bottom of the Portuguese league compared to the top and the bottom of the Premier League is obviously a much bigger gap. Even the gap between the top team and the 5th team, the 4th team, the 6th team, the 8th team, the 10th team, the gaps are just so much bigger from Sporting to those other clubs in Portugal compared to what Arsenal is to other teams further down the table in the Premier League. So that is the element that we are still yet to find out if indeed there will be. And don't get me wrong, Sesko would have had less pressure on him than Gyökeres does, because Gyökeres is coming in not only to a nation where he has played before, not in the Premier League, but has played in England, but mainly because of his age. His age bracket means that, of course, there is an immediate expectation to hit the ground running and bang. Whereas with Sesko, there would have been still a high amount of expectation, but not as much as there is with Gyökeres. And Gyökeres now needs to absolutely smash those goals in. If he can score half as many as what he scored for Sporting, then we've still had a very, very, very good season from him. But we want more than that. I think we all know that. Johanninho says from the L'Equipe interview, do you think that Gyökeres is up there with the best? And if not, how far does he have to go to get there? I don't think he's on the level of those that he's named just yet. And what I think he needs to do, it's very simple. He needs to have a season with Arsenal where he shows that he then is on that level. I don't think he's been able to play on the level yet to show that he's within that bracket of Haaland and Lewandowski and Harry Kane yet. But I think a season with Arsenal, if he has a similar season to what he's had the last 2 years, then definitely we can start talking about him in those circles. But right now, we can't quite do that, but that is the hope. A couple of member comments as well. Temis, thank you so much for the kind donation. Never wanted Sesko anyway. He's just a Slovenian Xerxes. Luke says, very upset, Tom. I wanted Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Watkins and Nicholas Jackson. Berta and Arteta out. Luke's been a member with us now for 22 months, but he's learned my sarcasm to a T in that time. Anko has gifted a membership to somebody in the chat. I wonder who that was. Shout out yourselves. Let us know who it was. I wonder if it was you. Mr. TX says, Gyökeres' doubts remind me a lot of the doubts surrounding Ivan Toney when he come to the Premier League, given the great scoring record he also had in the Championship. And, of course, Gyökeres also played in the Championship, scored 22 goals for Coventry. But yeah, I have my doubts, and those doubts don't disappear. They don't disappear at all. I'm still got my concerns, but I've got a greater level of excitement, now because it's happening, and that's just natural psychology. We are going to be more excited now that it looks like it's taking place. There's nearly 2,800 of you listening in the chat box. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening. We're going to be taking some more of your questions over the next 10, 15 minutes or so. I bought this shirt a long time ago, and I've grown up a lot more since then, and it's really hot. So, because it's a medium and I'm now a large, so I put it on this morning and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this show. And it's worth it for the bit, for the sketch, but it is really hot. You may even be able to see the beads of sweat dripping down my forehead at some point. It's really warm. And I think that in itself deserves a like. So please do help us to reach 1K every single day on the channel. We do these shows every single morning, 8 a.m. UK time. No, I don't have Gyökeres in the back. In fact, I'm not going to turn around to show you who is on the back because I don't like the player anymore. I might be able to get a bit of a clue who it is actually on the back of the shirt. Lee says, Tom, have you heard any reports on how furious Sesko must be with the club from pricing him out of a dream? No, I've not heard anything on that. Actually, it's a really good question to ask, though, but I haven't heard anything on that front. Dan says, Tom, what number shirt is available? 10, 14, 20, Eze to 10, Madueke to 20, Victor 14. I would be interested to see if Viktor Gyökeres gets the number 14 shirt. Of course, Gabriel Jesus currently has 9. I can't see him giving that up. I think Gyökeres would love the number 9 shirt, but I think he might take the number 14. Do a poll. There's a lot of guesses for Diamande. That's quite a good. Let's say it's Diamande. Yeah, it's definitely Diamande. It's definitely not a Manchester United player. 100%. It's definitely not that. Peter says we need Eze now, but finances will be challenging unless we spread the payment and sell Trossard. I can't see us doing it. Fair enough. As a pessimistic view, I really think Arsenal will push to get a deal for him done as well. Dimitri says, how do you think we'll balance the Zubimendi and Rice situation? Is Rice going to play more forward role this year and rotate with Eze at left day? I have a feeling that we'll see a different style of play. I think the midfield will be Zubi, Rice and Odegaard. I think that will be the midfield 3, but I think in the main, but we will without a doubt see change. Eze, if he is to be signed, will come in and play games in midfield. I think he'll play out on the left. There's a number of different options, I think, for Arteta if we sign Eze during this window. Michael says, Arteta said we couldn't judge Havertz until he played 55 games. Based on this, and also taking into account the similar transfer fee and less wages, would the people be doing the same for Gyökeres? Of course, Gyökeres is older than when Havertz. I think Havertz was 24 when he signed for Arsenal, so still moving into his prime years, whereas Gyökeres is in his prime years. But I don't necessarily disagree. Arsenal play about 55 games in a season. A player can easily play 55 games sometimes these days in a season, and it might just be saying, wait until the end of the season before making a judgment on the player. So I think that's probably fair, is it not? Sebastian Coates is a hell of a shout, Sue. A hell of a shout, but it's not him. Lib says, strip the Jesus of the number 9 shirt. This guy can't stay fit. Claire says, Norgard, Eze, and Marino is a very decent rotated in midfield. I tell you what, it is good, isn't it? The idea that in a cup game, Arsenal could use Norgard, Marino, and Eze, that's quite scary. Like how the level that Arsenal could have by bringing in some other players and swapping some players around. Madueke on the right, Martinelli perhaps, or Trossard on the left, and then Havertz up top. I mean, that was pretty much our starting 11 last season at points, with backups, of course, swapped out for the ones that we've signed. Jamie says, Tom, please can you provide advice on how to remove spray paint from a mural? What a difference 3 days makes. Jamie, it better not have been you. Better not have been you. MD says we should add Eze. We need to move the more squad depth, and a harsh lesson, of course, learned from last season. Aggie says, do you think that we'll still bring in a left winger? Not if either of the 2 players, of course, that are still here go. David Ornstein has dropped a report. Arsenal are working to complete a deal to sign Cristhian Mosquera from Valencia, 23-year-old centre-back, into last year of his Valencia contract. Arsenal move now very advanced. Personal terms are done for the Spain youth international. Arsenal getting closer to that Mosquera deal. So many of you with your David Ornstein tweet notifications turned on. And I don't blame you. My phone's been going mad in my pocket while we've been chatting. Yeah. Mosquera next, Eze after. What a window. What a summer. What potentially could be ahead of this season for Arsenal. Jacob says, how many games can Gyökeres go without scoring before Arsenal fans go crazy? 1, probably, knowing Arsenal supporters. Brendan says, with our newfound depth, which Premier League teams do you think our second 11 could beat? I mean, let's say our best 11, assuming Gyökeres, Mosquera, Eze all sign. Our best 11 is Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Lewis Skelly, Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Gyökeres, Eze for me. That would be the best 11. So our backup 11 would be Kepa, Ben White, Mosquera, Kivior, Calafiori, Norgard, Marino, because we've technically picked him, Nwaneri, Madueke, Havertz, Martinelli or Trossard. Woof. I mean, you can have Eze, you can have Martinelli, you can have Trossard in either of those 11s. To be fair, it's up to you, however you view it. But woof. What a couple of teams, eh? What teams could we beat with that second string 11? You know, you'd expect to get results against all the bottom half, at least all the bottom half. Front 3 of Madueke, Havertz, and one of Trossard or Martinelli. Nwaneri and Marino and Norgard or Calafiori, Kivior, Mosquera, Ben White. Like, it's a hell of a second team. That's removing all of Arsenal's starters. It's a hell of a second team. And this is why, I'm not like desperately crying out for Rodrigo. I really believe those 7 signings, if we can complete those 7 signings, is still really, really, really good. Rodrigo is a bonus for me, is a luxury signing. I'm not sitting here pining for Rodrigo. I know a lot of people are. I know a lot of people are really convinced by him. I think he would be, it'd be great to see. But Eze for me is the number 1 option. of this summer. It's for me, it's the most obvious one for Arsenal to really add to the end of this. If you said I had to choose between Eze and Rodrigo now on top of Gyökeres and Mosquera, it's Eze all day long. It's not even a debate. It's Eze all day long. So, I mean, which one of those two players has scored double digits in a league season? Only one of them, and his name's not Rodrigo. So, for me, it has to be Eze of those two. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on that last line. There's now over 3,000 of you listening on this morning show. Thank you so much for so many of you for tuning in. If you did join late, be kind and rewind. Trust me, it's worth it. Ryan says Zimmerman will be our best signing of the window. Rodrigo would be as good, in my opinion. Ashley says, I think Trossard is going, but no winger is coming. Eze, Nelly, Kai, Victor, Saka, Nwaneri, 3 positions is good. I mean, Jesus as well, of course, coming into that group as well. Nwaneri signing a new deal. You could argue that in times of desperate need, he could play in a wide area, but even though he's Sid more so as a central player. EV says, hi, Tom. I agree with the signing of. I agree with Rodrigo signing, but if Liverpool were to go in for him, I believe that we would need to put an offer to stop them from getting him. I've done the Orney update on Mosquera. I don't everyone still go and check. Orns needs to, I've done it. I said it. I've come on. Let's pay attention, people. Press the like button, indeed, Dan. Thank you so much, mate. Gunners says Rodrigo anti coming with those stupid wages and high fee overhyped. He ain't that guy. Spelt with an ant emoji. Dalvas says, who do you think is under more pressure? Arsenal's media team to get the Gyökeres announcement video right, or the sculpture of Berta's statue outside the stadium? Now, this is the last thing I'll say before we wrap up, because I said this shirt is clingy as anything. It's been clingy for Gyökeres this summer as well, by the way, and finally he's being able to tear it off. I need to do the same. If the announcement video of Gyökeres, and I'm speaking to you, media team, and I know some of you listen, so pay attention, please. And I'm saying this with all the empathy, not empathy, what's the right word? Humbleness, respect, and appreciation, admiration for your work. I think you've done brilliant work this summer. I really do. And if anyone's watching this that wants to clip this up and send it to them, feel free. If you do not get Gabriel Magalhaes involved in Viktor Gyökeres' announcement video, I will be very disappointed. If I do not see a transition of Gabriel doing this and him going like this, and as he goes down, it reveals Gyökeres, I will be very, very, very disappointed. I just put it out there. If anything, it's as important as the signing itself, because that is an opportunity that, in my mind, cannot be missed. It can't. It can't. So please, Arsenal, I beg, please, please do not waste that opportunity. I will forgive you if you don't, but please don't put me in that position. Anyway, thank you so much to so many of you for tuning in. I've really appreciated your time. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your Monday. I reckon your start to the week has been made a lot simpler. I hope that this is a lesson. I really do. I hope that people take this whole experience of this window so far and use it to just chill. Just chill out. Please, please. Because you just don't need to go nuts. You don't need to lose your heads. You can be a bit patient. And I know that social media can be a horrible, horrible place with some horrible, horrible people in it that make it even worse. But don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into those moments, please. Just be able to enjoy the ride. Enjoy the moments, because when they come like they have and did yesterday, that was great. That was truly wonderful. And Arsenal aren't done. We've got some more dopamine hits, I'm sure, coming through. We keep going. So, yeah. Just before we go out, Fabrizio Romano has tweeted Nwaneri's new deal at Arsenal can be sealed in principle this week. Arsenal believe progress made over the weekend was significant, with all indications a positive one at this stage. So, there you go. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Drop a like, subscribe. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. I've actually got a special guest coming on the show tomorrow. Not in the morning show, but in the evening. We're going to have a great chat, I'm sure. So watch out for that. 5 o'clock UK time live stream. I think I'm going to be going on with Sophie today. 5 o'clock UK time again, I think. 5:30 maybe. A couple of a good friend of ours is coming on that show, I believe, as well. So make sure you look out for that on the Highbury Squads. I'm sure Harry's going to be going live about 10 as well. So make sure you're going and watching over at the Chronicles of a Gooner. You get that every morning at 10 o'clock as well. So plenty of Arsenal content to absorb. That is just, just go and watch it. Even our boy Potsy. I'm going to be chilling in for a bit of Potsy today just to see his reaction. He knows I love him. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate your time. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.